What if one of the most dangerous leaders the world will ever see has already been described in detail thousands of years ago, not with a modern name, not with a face we can recognize, but through a vision so intense that it left the prophet who saw it shaken to his core, a vision filled with chaos, rising powers, strange beasts, and a figure so small at first that it almost seems insignificant until it isn't, until it grows, until it speaks, until it begins to change everything. The Bible calls this figure the little horn, and what it reveals is not just history, not just symbolism, but a prophetic warning about a ruler who will rise in the last days with power, deception, and influence unlike anything the world has ever seen. The story begins in a time of exile, when the prophet Daniel is living far from his homeland, surrounded by a culture that does not honor God. Yet, in the middle of that environment, God gives him a vision not for his time alone, but for the future of the world. Daniel 7:2-3 says, Daniel said, "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me were the four winds of heaven churning up the great sea. For great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea." The sea represents the nations restless, unstable, constantly shifting. And from that chaos, four beasts emerge, not ordinary animals, but symbols of kingdoms, empires, and global powers that will rise and fall throughout history. The first is like a lion with eagle's wings, powerful and majestic. The second is like a bear, raised up on one side, aggressive and devouring. The third is like a leopard with four wings and four heads, fast, strategic, divided in authority. But then comes the fourth beast, and everything changes. Daniel 7:7 says after that, "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was a fourth beast terrifying and frightening and very powerful. It had large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns. This beast is not just another kingdom. It is something far more aggressive, far more destructive, far more complex. And it has 10 horns, representing rulers or powers within it." But as Daniel watches, something unexpected happens. Daniel 7:8 says, "While I was thinking about the horns, there before me was another horn, a little one, which came up among them, and 3 of the first horns were uprooted before it. This horn had eyes like the eyes of a human being and a mouth that spoke boastfully." This is the moment everything narrows in. Out of many powers, one begins to rise, small at first, almost unnoticed, but quickly gaining influence, removing others, and then speaking with boldness, arrogance, and authority. This little horn is not just powerful, it is intelligent, observant, strategic. It has eyes like a man, suggesting insight, awareness, calculation. And it has a mouth that speaks boastfully, meaning it does not hide its pride. It exalts itself. It speaks as if it has ultimate authority. And as Daniel continues to watch, the vision shifts from earth to heaven, from rising kingdoms to divine judgment. Daniel 7:9-10 says, "As I looked, thrones were set in place, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was as white as snow. The hair of his head was white like wool. His throne was flaming with fire. The court was seated, and the books were opened." This is a courtroom scene. God himself sits in judgment, and everything that has happened is now being examined. And yet, even in that moment, the little horn continues to speak. Daniel 7:11 says, "Then I continued to watch because of the boastful words the horn was speaking. I kept looking until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire." This tells us something critical. No matter how powerful this figure becomes, no matter how loud or influential his voice is, his end is already determined. His power is temporary. His authority is limited. Judgment is coming, But the vision does not stop there. In another moment, another chapter, more details are revealed. Daniel 8-9 says out of one of them came another horn, which started small but grew in power, to the south and to the east, and toward the beautiful land. Again, the same pattern: small beginnings, rapid expansion, strategic movement. This figure does not stay hidden. It grows in influence, in reach, in control. And then the vision becomes even more intense. Daniel 8:10-11 says it grew until it reached the host of the heavens, and it threw some of the starry host down to the earth and trampled on them. It set itself up to be as great as the commander of the army of the Lord. It took away the daily sacrifice from the Lord, and his sanctuary was thrown down. Now we see the true nature of this power. It is not just political. It is spiritual rebellion. It challenges what is sacred. It interferes with worship. It removes sacrifices. It attacks the very structure of devotion to God. This connects directly to another prophecy, Daniel 9:27, which says he will confirm a covenant with many for 1/7 in the middle of the 7. He will put an end to sacrifice and offering. This shows a timeline. A leader rises, establishes agreement, gains trust, but then breaks that agreement and stops worship. And this aligns with what is later revealed in the New Testament. 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4 says, "Don't let anyone deceive you in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs and the man of lawlessness is revealed. He will oppose and will exalt himself over everything that is called God, so that he sets himself up in God's temple, proclaiming himself to be God." Now the picture becomes clear. The little horn is not just any ruler. It is a final world leader, often understood as the Antichrist, who rises through deception, gains authority, and ultimately exalts himself above everything, even God. But what makes this figure truly dangerous is not just power. It is deception. Daniel 8:25 says he will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. When they feel secure, he will destroy many. This means people will not immediately recognize him as a threat. He will not appear as obvious evil. He will appear convincing, persuasive, even trustworthy. And that is where the tension rises, because deception is most effective when it looks like truth, when it feels safe, when it comes at a moment when people feel secure. That is when the greatest damage is done. Daniel 7:25 adds another layer, saying, "He will speak against the Most High and oppress His holy people and try to change the set times and the laws. The holy people will be delivered into his hands for a time and half a time." This reveals a period of control, of influence, of pressure against those who remain faithful. It speaks of a time when truth will be challenged, when values will be shifted, when what is right may be redefined. And yet, even here, there is a boundary, a limit, a set time, because this power, no matter how strong, is not eternal. And then comes the turning point, the moment when everything shifts. Daniel 7:26-27 says, "But the court will sit, and his power will be taken away and completely destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of all the kingdoms under heaven will be handed over to the holy people of the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom." This is the final outcome. The rise of the little horn is not the end of the story. The deception is not the conclusion. The power does not last forever. God's authority stands above it all, and in the end, truth prevails. But this is not just a distant future event. The deeper message is about awareness, about discernment, because the same patterns deception, pride, influence. The challenge of truth are not limited to one moment in time. Jesus warned in Matthew 24:24 that says, "For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect." The warning is clear. Deception will be strong, convincing, widespread, and the only way to stand firm is to remain grounded in truth. So the question is not only who the little horn is. The question is how we respond. Are we paying attention? Are we grounded in truth? Are we able to recognize deception when it comes not loudly, not obviously, but subtly, gradually, persuasively? Because the story of the little horn is not just about a future ruler. It is about a pattern, a warning, a call to stay alert in a world where not everything is as it appears. And as the world continues to change, as leaders rise and fall, as voices grow louder and more influential, remember this: no matter how powerful any human authority becomes, it is still temporary. It is still under a higher authority. And in the end, the outcome is already written. Truth stands, God reigns, and every power that exalts itself against him will fall. If this message opened your understanding and helped you see prophecy more clearly, make sure you subscribe right now, because in the next video, we're going even deeper, breaking down the Antichrist, the final world system, and what happens next in the end times timeline. Stay alert, stay rooted in truth, and I'll see you in the next one.